Good evening, all. I'm very happy to be here, very honored to be here. Thank you very much to Jacqueline and also KASK Academy and Godat for inviting, and I'm very honored. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah, we have been thinking and discussing about the common factor that we have, and we have been working very differently in our art practices, and that is potato. Um, we said that, also Jacqueline said that we will talk from now, the time we met, and that was about 2 years ago. And yeah, so we are going to talk about this journey of potatoes in our art practice, in our life. We are going to show some slides. I don't know if Jacqueline wants.
I have to ask a question. Do you know the difference between potato and potato? There's a song about it. Okay, we are the difference between potato.
Yeah.
You want me to say something about it?
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. I think the performances Monali makes are incredibly impressive, beautiful, social, well, and an aspect of life which is, to me, well, in a way, that large, that I think that form of art is essential. What I'm doing is growing potatoes and letting them grow after they get out of the ground in their way, and they make their own world. That, I think, is the essential difference between your potatoes, and my potatoes, if we could keep it like that. And I think that it has a social aspect, but also a very artistic, culture aspect. Because I leave it to what a thing in itself is, and then transform. Well, we both eat them, of course, also, sometimes, but we're not talking about that. We have lots of recipes, and, well, we can talk later on about all the recipes, but then you tell your part, how you start with, or how you started with the potato.
Yes. I started using potato as a material to transform, to communicate, and that began just after the Rijksacademie. I was in 2000 and 2001 in Rijksacademie, and I remember that my work had social, political aspect, also doing performances and having interaction with public that had, but I was not really directly going towards the kind of transformation with using the material and politics. But in 2001, there was this 9/11 happened, and Rijksacademie being also a place for a lot of international artists, I very distinctively remember how it was not hatred, but it was a kind of reservations and doubts, and the place where actually a lot of people come together and work under this one roof. There was a tension I felt, and that moment I also felt that I have to do something. I have to use a kind of subtle language where actually these basic emotions are there, the anger, the hatred, the violence. And yeah, I was invited at the same time, just after the Rijksacademie, to participate, to show my work at the art fair in Amsterdam, Kunstrij. And I don't know if performances were happening at that time at the art fair, but I decided to do this performance. I have been using perishable material in my work before, and I was looking for, I have used rice, cooked rice, and built different structures. I also made a kind of text with cooked rice, which was eaten by the public. The word was dream. And then I thought, how am I going to use the words on what material, which can be transformed, which can be cleaned, washed, and which is part of the different culture. And then I came to this potato. I remember it was 2013, and I decided to write, there was a small body of work, I think 10 kilos of potatoes, and I wrote the negative words on it, hate, anger, violence, war, in different languages. And that was, I will show you also, of course, we are
Yes,
going to
exactly.
show the works.
Show some.
And that's how it began. And I was sitting at the art fair having this kind of installation of written words on potatoes, negative words, and I was peeling. And then at that moment, somehow people were curious, and I felt the energy that they would maybe want to do this. So I offered someone, and that's how it kind of began. And someone came forward and started peeling. And this is how it went on. And of course, then this body of work kept on evolving and transforming from places to places. And I have been doing this now for almost 17 years.
Yeah,
so
please.
I'm going to show. So here you see the basic installation, and according to the space, I also started giving a form to this installation. So this was at Kunstvrij, Amsterdam Art Fair. This was the very first one in 2013. Then from there, I was invited immediately to do the same performance in Aalsmeer. It was outside then, and I had a larger body of potatoes. This was the same year in 2013.
Well, there, could you,
And-
sorry,
yeah.
could you go back to that? No, the one with
before?
only potatoes on the floor.
Yeah.
And then show the potatoes on the floor I made.
Would you like?
You understand, to make the comparison why we are sitting here.
Okay.
I don't know, the only potatoes on the floor. No. Perhaps it's complicated.
No, it can
Sorry,
be
sorry, confusing. Yeah.
Yes?
No, but yours.
No, I thought you wanted me to show.
No,
you.
yours before. Because yours, you are going to do.
This one.
Yeah, no. No. Well, anyway, it doesn't matter. Because you are doing something with them,
Yeah.
with the potatoes, while mine have been doing, if you could put shortly mine on the floor,
The one from.
they have been doing something themselves. They are still, at this moment, this was in 2018, 19, at a gallery in Amsterdam called One Work. And it's, they're laying there just after they got out of the ground. Well, yours have text. They don't have texts. They are there the way they got out of the ground. But I put them together and made a sort of eternal circle, or not circle. And now, at this moment, years later, they are still there, and they got shrink potatoes completely. And that is, I think, the fantastic difference. Your potatoes do not ever shrink.
No.
They are eaten before they shrink.
Yeah.
No.
The transformation has to happen when it's installed and within some time. So I'm going back to my. Yes, so then I started asking, people to join, and they would peel. So the whole idea, I used actually potato as a metaphor.
Well, I meant that. That's the difference.
That's the one, okay.
between
So
my
this is
explanation.
afterwards in 2003 at Brazil. And then I had a larger body of kilos of potatoes. So I made this installation according to the space, and I made a kind of unknown landscape map. Also the words, there were also artists from different parts of the world. So I remember they helping me to write these words, translating and writing these words, war, violence, hate, racism, crime in different languages. So I had 13 different languages at that time which were written on these potatoes. And then the landscape keeps changing. The potatoes are peeled, people are joining. It just goes this action, ritual, daily ritual that we do to make our food has been transformed. The space gets transformed. The potatoes are boiled, cooked, and eaten by people. So the whole space.
May
Yeah,
I
please,
interrupt
yes.
for a moment? Because, I mean, you can see the difference. No, there is no difference because we haven't been looking at mine. But with you, there are always people involved. They're completely, well, let's say, socialites, the potatoes. They become they're very political and they're very social. While a potato in itself, look at the historical potatoes, are also very social because they're eaten in a social context. And it's your political part, I think, is so fascinating. And that's also why your performances are very fascinating. And it's completely complementary to what I'm doing when when I have them shrinked and make jewelry, or when I use them in a way, in a very different way, well, let's say, potato blues are sort of paintings, which are not paintings because they are photographies which are on canvas and then redone and redone and redone, and in the end they get encrusted potatoes, shrink potatoes again. And there's never people around, it's just themselves.
Yeah.
Well, there you see people not only looking at them, but working with them.
Yeah, yes, yeah. So, yeah, I'm kind of using them as a metaphor for a change.
Well, mine are never metaphor. They are what they are.
Yeah.
And I'm very insisting on the fact that to me, art is not a metaphor, but
Yes.
is what it is. Imagination, okay. Of course, okay. But not necessarily a metaphor. So,
Yes, and then you see that sometimes it is also just extended. It was supposed to be 3 hours. This was in Belo Horizonte in Brazil. And it's just the people are not leaving the space. It's getting dark, and it became, I think, 7 to 8 hours. And the whole transformation, you smell the cooked potatoes and the smoke and the space. Kind of, we were able to keep this for 3-4 days, the landscape of transformed potatoes and the peeled and the installation. And then this was in 2008 in Beijing, and I got even more really large body of potatoes that it was. I had also a lot of help. I'm very grateful. Otherwise, it was not possible really to work with this large body of work. A lot of students and people coming and helping to write, and also different cultures, different countries had different reactions because they also felt shocked to see all these bad words written, and they felt why it is like that, and then they saw the transformation and the performance action and how it was changed. So every time it was very dynamic.
But is it possible, perhaps, at some moment to show something of the shrink potatoes?
Yes.
And what came out of it? Because otherwise it's not illustrated what I try to tell. I mean, no, go on with your, of course. But just to have a view for you.
Maybe shall I just run through this and finish? Because there is
Okay, no, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt, but I think it's necessary to, I mean, why we are here together.
Okay, so whatever you will say, I can also go back.
No.
And yes, I just also, because it also became kind of already in Holland, in Aalsmeer, that some people came and asked me, shall we bring some knoflookboter, the garlic butter, to eat with it? And yeah, so because I always kept very simple body of cooked potatoes and there were no spices or anything. It's just that people ate just a very basic, bland cooked potatoes. And then in China was this sambal. And this is in India. Of course, sometimes it was not possible to cook them or have any kind of fire cooking equipments. So I offered that like this to people. Maybe now we go to you, I think, yes.
Depends
because,
on you.
yeah. Because otherwise it's, I think it's very...
That's what I meant to have.
Yeah, of course. So I'm going to go here with the space.
That's not at all shrink potatoes. Sorry, that's not at all shrink potatoes. This is another story. Please, could you stop just before?
So where would you like
Okay,
to
then
go?
now it gets
This
difficult.
one?
No, the point, what you just was showing, I'm sorry for that. But anyway, they are ceramic potatoes, and they're called baked potatoes. And they became the way they are. They're quite big, they're like that. I mean, a usual potato doesn't have that size. Yeah, this sort of potatoes. And that is because I had a commission to make a series around the garden, and I wanted to have them. And it was in Albisola, where the ceramics are. And I went there with my shrink potatoes to the ceramic atelier and said, could we make potatoes out of them? And then they said, no, that's absolutely impossible because they are just one piece and you can't. There has to be a hole inside. So I said, there can't be a hole inside. So I had to fake potatoes. So they, in a way, the baked potatoes are all fakes. I ended up with vases, and they're not real potatoes. While all the jewelry, for example, then if you could
Shall I
show
go to
the
the
jewelry and the, well, these are the paintings, and the paintings are photos.
Jewelry.
Well, these things like this have the real potato inside. And that means that the question of shrinking has to be without water. There shouldn't be any liquid when they get into any material like gold or well, first they go into copper, because otherwise they explode. Exploded potatoes are also a sort of cuisine, which I don't know exactly how it works, but these are all the different aspects, and that is what I think is so fantastic. Yours is so much human, because they are human people, while these are just objects, but they are objects that come out of the ground and that are completely themselves only that they got a very funny deformation or determinant, almost situationist sort of terms, and became objects that you can wear, very fashionable word. In a way, I think more fascinating and more important is what Monali does with the people and the object, while mine, of course, people are wearing it, I'm wearing it, and I hope
Yes.
Monali is going to wear it. But I mean, it's something less engaged, let's put it that way. I do treat them as being, I mean the potatoes, as being something very honorable. I mean, getting them in the ground and getting them off the ground and leaving them for a long time, very long time, to get all the sprouts, and once they have the sprouts, to get dry, they have a very long life. So I believe in the, let's say, the humanity of the potato itself.
Yes, I think this is incredible. You have been complimenting, but I'm using this form of potatoes like the daily life eating in the end. But in your work, you're giving, I mean, you grow them yourself.
Yeah.
It's very earthy, and you really go, I mean, it's life. There is a life of potato inside this. It's a beautiful jewelry. By the way, I'm very honored I got one. I have got a gift today, and beautiful, thank. But yeah, this is incredible how this has the journey of this potato from growing and sprouting and again transforming and giving this gold and platinum plated paintings and drawings. Mine is actually also repeating in a way. There is a transformation, yes, and there is also a lot of interesting things happening. Yeah, I think I will continue.
That's why I'm, in a way, a bit against this metaphoric sort of view on something like a potato, but also many other things. Because, I mean, don't forget the history of potato is very fascinating, but also very dramatic. The potato hunger in Ireland, the whole political and social aspects of poorness and what potato means. It's not only Van Gogh and the potato eaters, it's the whole stories that have been killing people because there was a lack of potatoes, or because, I mean, it's, so I can't see any metaphor. It's a realistic thing. And the luxury we have to grow them and that they come out and let them dry. Imagine, I mean, you can also, of course, make potato flour that exists here. All sorts of things can be made out of them, which is something very fascinating, but then we get to another object. But it means to me that it's a realistic thing, and it's not a metaphor. It is a metaphor in itself, perhaps, and also, I mean, I think it's funny that you can put them into copper and then into a gold bath, and they still have all their little sprouts, and they are all different because they're different sorts of potatoes. But still, it's fascinating, and you could do it with every fruit, perhaps, but we are just fixed on something which is essential in our food life. Is that right, or am I wrong?
Yeah.
Tell me when I'm wrong, please.
I will continue with.
Well, all of these things are potatoes and potato sprouts. There's nothing else than surrounded by material like gold or...
would you, I don't know if you want to say something about the paintings?
I'd love you. Well, and these are the first series of Potato Blues, and they come out of a little book which are black and white photos.
Shall I show these?
Yeah, if you...
Yeah?
No, but then we go back to you after that. Well, these are the baked potatoes.
Yeah.
Let's say the fake
The
potatoes.
black and white.
And that's the photos I made from the grounds and just in the cellar where they were trying to become food or shrink.
Do you want me to go back to the...
To the
book?
black and white book, if you can, please. There's the potato field, but oh yeah, then they become, if they get into the sky, they become clouds. But that's sort of collage. So if you can put a little bit of, yeah, these are the fields where they grow, and I've been drawing.
These are the fields you have been growing. Huh?
Yeah, I've been drawing, yeah, of course. Well, there you have this sort of thing. Then perhaps you can imagine how, well, everyone knows how they grow. Also, there's a funny story about how they grow. They get potato flowers. And the flowers are very, very, they're also in the book, but I don't know where they are. And they're very beautiful. And in the old days, gentlemen had a potato flower in their knoopsgat. I don't know what a knoopsgat is, button. Of course.
What is? No?
Something button, you know, you
No,
put a
yeah.
flower inside. And that was some elegant thing. I mean, a potato flower. Who knows about potato flowers? But I think now we have to get back to some human part of, to you, of the potatoes, because otherwise you all get hungry. But there you can see all this is in the cellar. Although I've been drawing on them. And these are just potatoes. You can imagine as artists, that it's asking for art. Come on, Ali, get some human aspect.
Where is that? Yeah, so this now continues to the the time of pandemic, 2020. This was part of Living, Forgiving, Remembering group show at Museum Arnhem. It was in the Kerk, the kind of temporary place because the museum was getting renovated. And yeah, this went also through a lot of transformation due to the pandemic. So the first part of preparing and having installed went very smoothly. So there we had 750 kilos of potatoes, but of course I don't let the potatoes go waste. So it was already planned that we will give it away to the organizations where they can use it, cook it, and give the food to the people. I also had, again, a lot of help from art students, academy students, and also other organizations, social workers, and yeah, refugee organizations also. And you see here, we had a huge heap of ardapalan. Yeah, so then I wanted to have a performance that people coming and peeling and the same ritual, also in a kind of a bit organized way, and because of the space had that, that offering that I could really use it differently. But then, yeah, we couldn't do it because the rules were very strict, and yeah, I could not, they could not invite people, and then I was there. We decided to make a registration of the whole process, and I did it alone by myself. The whole idea was also that the potatoes, if that would have happened and if the people were invited, we wanted to have them cooked in the Stadskeuken, because this was not allowed in this space, and then we also wanted to eat them. But then that is only registered in a video. So, yeah, and then this show was invited in Kunsthalle 314 in Bergen. So again, there I couldn't go. And then the installation happened without me. So somehow this work also kind of living on its own, and it's going further with the instructions. And then again, people were not allowed to come together, or there were just 5 people, or so all that was not possible. And then it kind of drastically changed, which was not really the point of. So we kept the potatoes in the space, and they are a bit growing, but it was for a certain amount of time, and then they were given to the farmer and for the fertilizers or for the animals. So this was the second last in 2020 and 2021. And then there was in Ghent, Kunsthalle Ghent had also Buy Local. Probably you all heard about it, and you saw that exhibition and all works where they also had performances, and this body of work I propose, and I could do this over there. So this again, this was the last in 2021 that I did this old-fashioned again here. You see among different works. And again, a lot of people joined, and in writing process.
Do they never sprout? Sorry. Do they never sprout while they are being used?
Yeah, we
in
always
your
kind
way?
of have that in mind, that because otherwise they are not edible. You can't really.
No, of
them.
course, but I mean,
Yeah.
with such an amount, I think it could happen that 1 or 2 just decide. I mean, how do you know where they come from? I mean, you know the farmers. Do you
In
know?
this case, yes.
Do you think about race, the different races
Well,
of them? I have to consider it because they got different sprouts, which of course I do not
Yes.
recognize once they're shrinked, and I forget completely who they were.
Yeah. No, but I think I see it that you sprout them very beautifully. So you have chosen a kind of, type of potato which are very beautifully sprouted. And here, the one before in Bergen, you see that it was just that they sprouted, and then we had to move them out. Otherwise,
course,
it
yes.
was, So you have that magic. You know that. I'm lacking there. So, of course, there is not so much research about it. It's just also about the size and that the quality, that it can stay longer intact.
But another question is, could you ever use another vegetable or animal to do your performances?
Rice. Yes, I've used rice, and I built structures. I cooked rice on the spot, also outside, and that was in Utrecht, in Outhof. And much before that, I also used, that was my first time in Europe, outside of India, in Europe. In Vienna, I was in a residency, and I was totally fascinated by a lot of things because I was never in Europe. So I was also collecting the packages from supermarket and the food and certain type of food that was also the beginning of performances in 1998. And I use these things from mushrooms that I was drying them and making molds and perishable. That was the beginning. So here, yeah, I just have people participating, and then they are cooked. And that time there was also another project of Loris Nawat. She had her a restaurant. The project was called Restaurant Kitchen. And so we had also all the equipments for cooking, and it was, yeah, this part was collaborated, and she helped with making sauce and and cooking aspects. So this is it. This was 2021, the story of potatoes and old-fashioned so far. I don't know. And
Well, what I would like to say, I would never make jewelry in my life, never thought about it until I saw the potatoes growing and saw what they were doing. And there was actually in Paris a big collector of artist jewelry who said, I would very much like a piece of jewelry by you. Then I said, I'll never make jewelry, I can't stand it. And then I saw these potatoes and thought, if it's possible to get them into jewelry, so I started painting them into gold and silver, and it was awful and looked awful. They were shrinked already, because I understood they have to be absolutely, the liquid has to be out, and just nothing worked. I really tried as a painter to do something with them, until I thought, well, perhaps a jeweler can do something, because they put baby shoes into gold, and they have them hanging in cars. And what you do with baby shoes, you can also do with potatoes. So that's how I got to a jeweler, and he said, well, it will be very difficult, but we can try there where they make also the baby shoes well, not for jewelry, for objects. So that's how it started with the jewelry, and then it became sort of, well, it went on and on, but I think I started in an exhibition with potato language, and they were just the sprouts and the potatoes, and that was at the Van Abbe Museum in Holland. I was invited by Jennifer Tay to do something, and the potato language things just stayed the way they were, and it was language because the sprouts were very long. And then the jewelry came, and once that started, I thought I might be thinking in different ways about this damn potato. And I go on, and that is how it ended up until, well, it's still going on, because I'm drying lots of potatoes, but it takes such a long time that perhaps I don't live long enough to have all my dried potatoes into objects on, well, whatever, on the paintings or on the jewelry. And that in COVID time was not a thing. They went on, they had no virus, they had a very good life getting dried, but I mean the clients wanting jewelry were not there anymore, and I'm very happy to wait a long time and find out something else apart from making objects with them. And I don't know how you will go on, but it is the eternal potato.
yeah, I never also knew that this will go, when I began in 2003, that it will have such a long journey. And yeah, I mean, this large amount of, I also peeled a lot. I mean, incredible amount that, yeah, I have pains, I think, from doing that action for hours and hours. And I don't know, this work can also continue without me.
Yeah.
Like it happened
yeah,
now
of course,
in Bergen
yes.
in pandemic.
Yeah.
So I don't have to be there.
Do you have any video perhaps, that you could show us?
Yes, I do, but yeah,
I
don't
think
know
it would
if
be
they, maybe
like,
they have seen
do they
enough,
move?
because it's the same
Do you have
image moving. Yeah,
moving
it's the
potato?
moving image of. I have one from China and I have one from the latest one
Show
from
us
Arnhem.
something.
I don't know which one you would like to,
Well,
or should
ask
they
the
ask
public.
questions, or I don't know. Would you like to? Yeah, you want?
Yeah, I think.
Which one would you like to see? Um, yeah, this is a bit funny.
The human potatoes. Oh, that's very nice, this title.
This is very old.
Very
and
lovely,
it's-
this title.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Sorry, what am I doing?
Do they talk?
There is, but I mean, if it's not that you see the kind of background sound of people, the atmosphere. So, and the peeling of, yeah, we didn't
What is happening?
know for the sound actually, but do you hear it, Pete? No? It's more the atmospheric sound, but yeah, we didn't check it really.
Monali, is there a very big difference between a peeled potato, for you, a peeled potato or a non-peeled potato?
You mean with the written words
Well,
on it?
in the way you use them in your work.
For me, I mean, the non-peeled potatoes are beautiful.
Exactly.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I never use, well, apart from food.
Yeah.
But no, exactly. There are also there, well, as I'm a painter, I think the huge difference in
Yeah.
colors, not only the potato flowers, but also the potatoes themselves and the potato sprouts have all these incredible colors
What
that
I
make.
what I enjoyed most always that the process, because you see the non-peeled potatoes and the words and the peeled potatoes and all that was very interesting. The whole combination of it, but for my liking, it's always beautiful to see, and there's a more aesthetic when it's not peeled. And yeah, this part was always, and also here something very funny happened because there was so much, the amount of potatoes we had that I didn't open all the bags. They were just stacked also as part of the installation. And I said, my God, I don't want this to go west.
No, of
So
course, no.
there were a lot of people outside who were selling food on the street and they came, and in 15 to 20 minutes, the whole space was cleared and they took it immediately and they used it, which also I feel very responsible for that.
Sure.
But I can just forward it. I remember this man was a bit angry when he came in and he saw all the negative words written. Also, this work, one thing that there are all age people can get engaged, from old to really young. There were a lot of young children doing that. It felt like a child labor, but they were just there. They were not ready to
Because
move.
I mean, it's also a game.
Yeah,
It's
that
play.
little boy
Yeah.
is continuously.
That's fantastic. give them back? Do you ever give them back to the farmers to because there's
That's what-
recycling. I mean, you can put them again in the ground.
That's what they did in Bergen,
Yeah.
Norway, that they were given to the farmer.
And that is one of the big problems with once you put them into a gold bath, they don't regrow, they don't recycle. So they're sort of spilled. I do something wrong when I make them, I think.
Yeah, so this was.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, so maybe there's some time for questions.
Yeah.
Jacqueline, is it possible to give us a brief summary of
You have to.
professional life? And have you been
Sorry, you have to take one. No, I can't hear.
Shall I give?
If you can.
Hello. Is it possible to give us a brief summary of your life as a painter, and when did you decide to go over to the potatoes? Okay, maybe.
She's saying,
If it's possible to give a brief summary of your life and tell when you started to work with potatoes.
From the beginning of me as a potato.
What were you doing before potatoes, he's asking?
Sorry, no, but I mean, I'm a painter. And no, I'm not going to give a summary. No, it's too long, it's too boring. No, but how I got to it is simply because I saw them, the potatoes, growing in my cellar. Well, usually when you grow potato, I go on potato. I'm not going to talk about my person, if you don't mind. But I mean, it really started when first time when I had put potatoes in the ground, I got them out, and I put them in the cellar, and I think 2 or 3 months later, they had all these long sprouts. And by then, Jennifer Tate, quite known Dutch artist, asked me to participate in her exhibition at the Van Abbe Museum. And then I thought, if I put all these things with sprouts, and I call them, like the Peruvian, because they come from Peru, potato language because of the what do you call thread language of the Peruvians, they have a function. And from that moment on, I decided that they are not only growing, but they became art in a way. So I don't even remember. Yes, then I put them on a painting, on a sailcloth I had made, a big sailcloth. And I realized that they had a surplus in work also. So that's how it started. Then this jewelry story came, which was something I really didn't want to do, but it turned out to be great to do it and big fun to do it, and also became something quite important, and that made it so. It's very personal, but also very, well, very much like an artist who is a painter and very classical. I'm not a classical painter at all, but classical sort of using material. You can use anything with it. So it has been going on since 2007. I mean, it's quite a long time for a potato to go on, but if you imagine how long potatoes have been going on, it's part of the history.
But were the potatoes not also in your paintings before already? Or
If I use potatoes?
yeah, in your paintings as a motive, was it starting after the jewelry? Or already
No, that's again something which was not my, it's like the Druid, it was not my idea at all. It was a three-star press in Paris who said we would like to make an exhibition, and why do you not use your potatoes to make paintings? So I said, how the hell shall I use my potatoes to make paintings? I had done the ceramics, and I didn't want to make fake potatoes again. Once fake potatoes is enough. And then he said, it's very simple. You're going to make pictures of your ground, I mean, where you grow them. And these pictures you're going to draw on, and when you have been drawing on them, that's actually what you were showing us to show. When you've been drawing on them, you have them on canvas, and then you buy oil sticks, and then you paint them. As I'm more or less a rebellion, I didn't like to get a lesson what I should do. But then I thought oil sticks, very interesting, and all these aspects which I would not have invented at all, ever, gave me a kick and triggered me to do them. So that's how they became more or less two-dimensional, which they are not, because then I used other materials, and in the end I encrusted the shrinked potatoes. I'm not going to make those anymore. I've done, I think, about 30, and that's done.
Then you were talking about the potato as a metaphor in itself. Do you think
Me? Metaphor? Never.
this is what I wrote down?
Sorry, got that.
I'm wondering, is the potato on the canvas, has it, because we're also talking about it, the potato as a jewelry is almost a détournement of a potato. It becomes something poor that becomes something very rich.
What is he saying? Could you put, take your mask, perhaps?
No, so I'm wondering, maybe to make it easier or shorter, is the potato on canvas, is it the same as when it's in gold? Does it have the same meaning? Or is it something different?
No, I mean, completely different. I mean, the canvas or the photos or the little book or whatever I do is very near what I usually do. I am not someone that makes jewelry normally, but I must say, whenever I look at these funny things, I think, my God, that would be very nice. And then I start, of course, I do something with them when I make rings. I used to sprout to make literally a ring. Actually, I haven't got one myself because they get sold. But it is something which is somehow against my, well, attitude or I can't say principle, but jewelry, even made by an artist, and there's so many artists who like to make jewelry, is not exactly, well, my love. Jewelry could be, but then they are so much sculptures, but they're so tiny little sculptures, very modest. I think when people wear them, and I mean, if you have two earrings, each is different because each is a potato. So you never have the same, nothing is the same, and that makes it challenging.
For you, Monali, because you were showing potatoes everywhere, and also everywhere in the world people are eating potatoes, more or less. You were showing the potatoes in Holland or in China or in Norway or Brazil. Does this change the meaning of the performance or the potato maybe?
The basic, as a basic food, is the same everywhere. And potato also has a history, the war history, and as also Jacqueline said, that it's a basic, and the poor people and the whole how potato were at some point yeah, in the war, that
Yeah, of
they
course,
were,
yes.
yeah, they were really needed, and how they were also kept and stored. So that remains the same, but the process and the approach towards the material and that was very interesting and different. I can't say that people also in Netherlands also people joined, but you see that in India or Brazil that there was just this mob of people. They just attack when they see the pillars in the space and they just go on. So there was no hesitance. They just kind of joined and ate as well. In Brazil, they took over actually. They just took over the whole thing. They were just there. Yeah.
And I'm also wondering, Jacqueline, you asked Monali if she could use another vegetable. Can you use another vegetable?
Sorry?
If you can use another vegetable than potato. Maybe Monali, you can ask Jacqueline.
Festival.
He's asking that you asked me that if I would use, or if I used any other vegetable, any other food,
No, no,
any
but
other.
that I said before, never. I used once a ginger. A piece of ginger turned out, actually, the very first jewelry I made was a ginger. But I didn't tell them that it was not ginger. And the ginger has tiny little sprouts. It has to have sprouts to go on. But deformation of a ginger is so much less interesting. And a ginger doesn't need that, well, when it dries out, nothing spectacular is left. So, and I never thought about using another. I mean, I just bought the potatoes, they're called red blush, the ones I bought, which I'm going to put into the ground in 1 month's time. And I know for the red blush, I mean, it's beautiful. It has a mouse on the potato. You know the red blush? It's a very beautiful one. Anyway, you don't see anything after it's a shrink. But I mean, there's nothing, to me, there is no other vegetable object, apart from that ginger, that has this deformation which is so consistent and so incredibly funny, as each thing is different and each thing stays an object.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have your favorite? I know, but yeah, please. Yeah, there is.
Yeah, it might be a silly question, but Monali said a few times that your work could go on without you, that it almost took a life of its own. I was wondering for Jacqueline if, for example, your potato jewelry, if it also could go on without you. Say somebody else grew, sprouted, and dried and encased potatoes. Would they still be your artworks or different artwork, or would it be potato jewelry manufacturing? See what I mean?
No?
Would be
Sorry.
Monali's art.
Can you explain?
Like,
Yeah.
She said.
No, she is saying that my this old-fashioned work that can go without me being there present, that I can instruct or give instructions and this will go on if I'm not able to go. In the same way, if your jewelry can be, if someone is, yeah, but someone is
No, of course
sprouting
not.
and,
No, no one can do it because I don't do anything. The thing does it itself. That is what is interesting. I mean, of course, I have to give it to a jeweler to put it into a copper bath and then into a gold bath. But I'm not involved in what is happening because the thing, the object, the potato, is the thing that does it itself. Of course, it gets a layer of metal, but you can't, I mean, there's no deformation. Of course, if I make a ring and I put a sprout so that it can go around your finger, I do something. So it's not entirely, exclusively the potato that does it, but it's still the same potato that is round and has a big sprout. And I use that sprout, but no one else can, I mean, no person can do more to it than it does itself. Does that explain?
Somewhat, yes.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know how to explain it in a different way.
Thank you.
Monali, I did
Well, him I will not understand. I won't
Yeah,
understand
yeah.
anything. Sorry, if you can take, you can. Yeah,
You cook like the potatoes. It's a part of the
you're going to
performance,
say.
and it's like the social aspect is important. But you also say you just eat them blank. And do you think, or is it something you experimented with, like making a recipe with the potatoes, or was it always like blank?
Yeah, no, there was, I never wanted to really make a kind of recipe and make something delicious. That was not the point. It was just this basic thing. It just happened a couple of times that they asked me, can we bring some knofluk, the garlic butter or the sambal in China. But otherwise, it was always the basic form because the whole, it's not only about making the food, it's the whole process and what happens and people's involvement and the words. So that, yeah, it's not really the part of, but yeah, I'm open for it if, for example, in Arnhem, they also because in some places we are not allowed to have the equipments for cooking. So then it's taken somewhere else and then they want to make something and they want to use it in a different way and provide as a food. That's fine. As long as it's not wasted.
Any other questions?
It was really great to hear both of you. First of all, I just want to say thank you for that. It was interesting to hear you speak about something that is so, let's say basic in a way, but still so rich. And you both went through an artistic development more or less by chance in each your ways. But I also was curious a little bit about what Jacqueline said about the difference between the object being its own object versus a metaphor. And so Monali, when you spoke about it being a metaphor, I mean, it is of course, as Jacqueline said, like the potatoes have a whole identity on their own. And for example, I would be curious how it would be if you do it in Ireland, for example. I mean, there's such a history with the potatoes and what do you say, the farming. But in any case, like what I'm building up to is just that I think I've eaten your potatoes actually in a King's County Ghent, and I don't think I was aware of it.
Oh.
Would have been nice to know actually, but I'm just curious also about how you see that, like how this whole idea of the potatoes having its own identity, but then you writing on them, and it's you know it's sad words, bad words, horrible things, and then we eat them. Like, what does that mean? Is it like, do we have to face something, or is
No.
it more?
Yeah, sorry. No, that also, because this work has a long process. So when you have eaten these potatoes, probably you came at the moment when this whole action was done and then the cooking part. So that's always a possibility that, you know, there is open space for people to enter and experience. So it's such a long process that you're never there from the beginning, or you, if you know, there are a lot of people, they come and go as well. They come, they see it, they take part, they go away, and then they come back to eat. That also happens. And the whole idea is that you're actually, the words are there, we all are part of those things. We all have good and bad, and we all are dealing with it. It's just that, again, that it's been washed and cleaned and cooked and eaten. So we have to somehow understand this. I know it sounds also very probably childish that we think, someone also asked many times that, is it really like, okay, you're writing, what's big deal? And then you peeled it, and Do you think that these things are going to go away from the world? No, it hasn't. You know, it has grown and grown, in fact, since 2003 or before until now. But there is some kind of trigger, I feel, that it gives. And art is in some way, it is making a kind of transformation. How you take it, or it is giving a kind of suggestion. I'm not saying that it is going to go away immediately like that when you cleaned and when you eat it, but I'm sure people remember it as well. And I've met a lot of people in Ghent and they said, oh, it was that your work that we experienced, because during that time, a lot of people came to Kunsthalle Ghent just because there was nothing else happening, and a lot of people were coming in this time of pandemic to experience, because the art spaces were open here in Belgium. So they came, also children came, and I hope I answer your question.
Yeah, yeah, totally, and it's a beautiful thing, and it's not as if there's one answer only. But also, just the final thing I want to say is that, you know, with potatoes, if you write on them and they're not being peeled, and you would put them into the earth, that could give a whole new aspect as well, and have new potatoes growing from the roots, in a sense.
Yes, yeah, that's totally, so far it didn't happen. They have been recycled and used.
Yeah,
But
that's what I meant.
yeah, but yeah, because I take into consideration that it's not going to be wasted and it's in time. So sprouting is not really the process of this work. Before that happens, we also ask sometimes the farmers or wherever we buy that, and we keep really a close watch on it that it's not happening. Yeah,
Maybe one last question.
there's someone.
Okay.
Jacqueline, I'm curious about your aversion to metaphor. Can you tell us a bit more about your...
You
Your,
translate.
yeah, your version about the metaphor, right? You're asking?
Do you really want to talk about that? Because we are not using the metaphor as an item in this talk. I mean, there is no metaphor in my vision on what we are talking about and not what we are talking, what we are doing with the potato. I mean, how do you want to put a metaphor into this? Then we get a discussion which can take on very long. The thing is, let's put it in a simple way. A potato is a vegetable, and it's a fact. And it's the fact how it grows and how it is used. And you can't talk all sorts of, metaphoric imaginations about it, because it's a realistic thing. And I refuse to put it in another way. Sorry?
It is not metaphoric by itself. It is very real, yes.
Yes.
So absolutely, I completely agree with Jacqueline that it's a real, it's very earthy, live thing. It's the way I'm using it in my work as a metaphor. But as a metaphor, so it's not a metaphor, you know what I mean? It's not a metaphor. Potato is not a metaphor, I'm using it. So
I mean,
that's
the
difference.
tendency to make metaphor out of everything is very boring. Sorry. Thank you very much
Thank
for
you.
explaining.
Thank you, yes.
Thank
no.
you for explaining it.
We'll have one very last question. And I know, Jacqueline, that you don't want to talk about personal things. But I'm very curious about your favorite potato dish.
The potato fish?
Dish. Potato dish, yeah.
Your favorite dish of a potato.
My favorite dish of potato. Oh, that's very simple. That's potato with tripe.
Wait, what?
Tripe? Tripe in French? try. Which probably everyone is shocked now.
Potato with tripe.
The inner of the stomach.
Ah, oh
Cake.
really?
And it's very simple.
Oh yeah? Oh.
Then,
I
so
love all,
sorry. And
sorry.
of course, chips. Chips. Do you all love chips? We love chips.
Thank you.